So ChatGPT and other technologies like that with AI, we don't want them to use that as a crutch that's now going to stifle their learning. At the heart of it, that should be our concern, that students are no longer learning because they can push a button. I think if you approach your classroom, though, in a way in which that you're doing assignments and doing activities that can't be done with a push of a button, then you can avoid a lot of the problems you may encounter. And I know that's easier said than done, but I would like to think that that will be our approach moving forward.
You're listening to the smartsocial.com podcast. I'm your host, Josh Ochs. This is our District Talk segment where we interview district leaders to learn how they're keeping students safe on social media so those students can someday shine online. Now, let's get back to the interview.
Joseph Jones, Superintendent of Newcastle County Vocational Technical School District. We're roughly about 4,800 students. We are a vocational technical, so only high school, only career and technical education. And we are located in Newcastle County, Delaware, and we cover the entire county.
My name is Ashley Smith. I'm the Executive Director of 21st Century Learning for Lucia Unified School District, which is located in the Pismo Beach area, so the central coast of California. We have 19 schools and about 10,000 students.
Hi, my name is Ben Shuldiner. I'm the superintendent of the Lansing School District here in the glorious capital of Michigan. We have about 10,000 students across 26 schools, and it's a wonderful school district.
How is your school district approaching ChatGPT?
As a school district and as a superintendent, I would like to think we're in line with trying to see the benefits of ChatGPT and how that could empower us as a school. I've talked to other school leaders, and it's a powerful tool. I don't think we have to be afraid of it. I hear concerns all the time, like, oh, well, students are using it to cheat. If we're just coming to the idea right now that students cheat, we've missed something for generations. Cheating has been around forever. This is just a different way. So again, it's the mindset of, okay, this is a powerful tool. Artificial intelligence is a powerful part of our society that's only going to grow. So how do we get in front of it? And so one way is, as a school district, can this help us actually write things? Could it help us write grants? Could it help us write IEPs that aren't necessarily generic? But when we have to put out a lot of literature, can it actually do something for us in productive ways instead of thinking that this is something for something else? So the district, we're looking at ChatGPT and artificial intelligence to help us. One thing the research says, even within the health field, artificial intelligence alone is not superior to humans. Combined, humans using artificial intelligence is incredibly powerful. And so we're looking to take that approach. We're not naive to the fact that our students might be using it. So we are just embarking on curriculum discussions. If we are starting to use this tool, can students use it? But only say 10% of a paper can be ChatGPT, and then cite the source. So just start building rules around it so kids actually get to learn to use this technology too. And I've messed with this tool a lot when I first discovered it a few months ago. And there are redundancies. There are things to it that are generic, and you can start seeing some of that generality in repetitive type questioning. So I don't think it's anything to be worried about, but it is something to be in tune with. How can we build a structure to use it? And I go back to Wolfram Alpha, which was another tool years ago. Everybody was paranoid that everyone was going to use Wolfram Alpha. Kids would never need to compute anymore. And it just isn't the case. These become tools for us. I'm a big fan of ChatGPT if we can use it right, especially to help us in a small district create things. And I'll, on a side note, we're starting to think, how can we use other technologies like DALL-E? and for us as well. And so, again, I wish we had a team that could investigate this. As a smaller district, we try to stay very much in tune what huge districts in the country are doing, and maybe some policies that they may create around this that make sense to us. But I would like to think we're using it and trying to see it as a tool, just like everyone else. How can this benefit Newcastle County VOTEC?
I think it is mixed. Certainly, me personally, I think ChatGPT is fantastic. I will fully admit that I use it to write letters of recommendation, and I also use it to all sorts of other ways. It's brilliant, and again, it's a tool though. I end up editing a lot, and I have a specific tone and tenor that I like to use. But ChatGPT, especially the new version 4 rather than 3, depending on how you call it. The 3 version was built off of basically 2021 searches. Now you're talking about real live, most up to the minute stuff, which is really incredible, and their ability to look at all sorts of kinds of data. And then what you want to do is you want to look at the things in your school district that might make sense to automate with great grammar and good and no spelling mistakes. So we're looking at using it for things like IEPs, right? So IEPs are very formulaic. So there's ways to maybe try to get it to help write certain things. If you already have all the information there, put it together so that it's spelled right and that it's put on the paper correctly. We're looking at it for reading and differentiation. One of the hardest things to do as a teacher is to differentiate, but yet that's the best education. So you can actually go into ChatGPT, give it something to read and say, okay, write this for this level. Write this for this level, write this for this level. And now, instead of the teacher having to find 3 different texts or modify things, you can actually use ChatGPT to do that. Now, are we there yet? No. We are very early on in kind of looking at it and figuring out how to do it. But these are conversations that we have on a daily basis, because I think that ChatGPT, more than any software I've ever seen, can really get to the heart of the instruction matter, which is how do you kind of be more Vygotskian and Skinnerian in the sense of zone of proximal development. Where is that child? How do you move that kid forward, or kind of in a Skinner model of really scaffolding? Well, you can do that if you're differentiating, but let the software do it for you rather than the teacher working hours and hours on it.
Well, we're kind of approaching it a lot like how we approached YouTube when YouTube was new, right? We're seeing the same kind of thing. Like YouTube started and everyone was like, you've got to shut it down. It's a huge distraction. We can't have YouTube. And it was like this hunt to shut down the internet. And now we fast forward, I don't know, probably 10 years from when that was really happening, and YouTube's wide open, or, with the correct filters on it. And we wouldn't dream of blocking YouTube in the classrooms. And if we did, people would be furious because there's teaching resources and there's valuable learning in there. And we're really approaching it the same way, in trying to not just shut it down, liken it to the other experiences that we've had in technology, because there's always going to be this new next thing. And it seems like when something comes up, it's like this, shut it down, because we don't understand it. And then as we start to learn how it can be used and be useful in education, typically the pendulum really swings, and it's like we get all these requests not to lock it down. So we're right in the middle of that swing right now as it's becoming more and more prevalent.
Are there any positive use cases that you've heard from students around ChatGPT?
Not to date. I haven't talked to any students specifically about it. Our curriculum division is starting to have these discussions. We're into the 4th marking period in our school system, so we start to have some conversations on how the year went, thoughts on curriculum, thoughts on instruction, and I can see us weaving this in to get a pulse on how well our students are using it. Are they using it? Are they familiar with it? And because we're a vocational school, it's also important for me to mention we have over 40 career programs. So those career programs are very much performance assessment driven. So things like ChatGPT may have no space in those career programs, but in our academics, it certainly would. So that's where we're trying to have these conversations again, and how to use it responsibly. How do we use something like this? I just learned, I have a podcast as well, and we just interviewed Doug Reeves, and Doug Reeves the podcast is Focus Ed, hashtag focused. And he told us about a new tool that will put everything in APA formatting. Well, when I was going through my doctorate, I would have loved for something for that. Now, some people might say, well, you should learn APA formatting. But what's the purpose really? Should I be spending my thought energy on crafting great ideas that then can be communicated, or making sure I got punctuation right after someone's last name? So I think those type of technologies can be very useful. You just have to have that mindset. So hopefully if I'm back on the show, I'll have a better answer to that as we interview some questions as the year comes to an end.
Well, I mean, I think a kid would say it's super positive that I can cheat, and I don't have to work very hard. But that's what a kid might say. No, I think that kids are using ChatGPT, in a positive way to possibly edit using grammar, things like that. But I think it's so new right now that the major use is probably a little bit to their detriment. Certainly we know of students that are using it to help write their papers and things like that. But again, that's going to be, up to the teacher to really figure out a way to instruct and create assignments that will kind of outthink ChatGPT. But I've certainly heard kids using it to help them with college essays, with their own essays, with letters, and that's okay. That's using technology, right? I mean, don't we teach kids to try to use technology to better themselves? It's all right, So I haven't, I've heard all sorts of stories, and I think it really will depend on your vantage point on, how you see it as positive or negative.
I mean, kids are just like social media in general. Kids are doing creative things with it. I heard of someone writing their like or trip itinerary with ChatGPT, and just some really creative things. I've heard kids appropriately using it for like their rough drafts or to get their thoughts out, and not for their whole paper per se, right? But just to throw some things out there. I think they're emailing, now that we've taught them how to use their email, right? They're using it to do email responses. So really some progressive thinking.
With regards to ChatGPT, are you changing any of your techniques for grading students and the types of assignments being used in the classroom in your school district?
Regarding grading assignments or having students complete various assignments, to date, we have not changed anything regarding ChatGPT on a scale. So as a district coming out with a statement, I'm sure if I were to survey every English teacher or social studies teacher in the district, they may have adjusted things to some degree. But I'll be quite frank, to date, this has not risen as a major problem for us just now. And I would like to think maybe that's because we knew about this technology very early on. One of our principals, Justin Comagese, he's an excellent principal, but he's on top of all of this. And he brought it to one of our meetings, showed us exactly what it was about. And I will say our initial reaction was fascination versus, oh no, every kid's going to use it for this. So I'm hoping that when we do come out with a policy around it, or if we have to, it's more along those same lines of using it responsibly instead of using it as a crutch. Because at the end of the day, what we're trying to do within our schools is get students to think. We want them to be able to collaborate, problem solve, think about their thinking, and come up with better ideas. So ChatGPT and other technologies like that with AI, we don't want them to use that as a crutch that's now going to stifle their learning. At the heart of it, that should be our concern, that students are no longer learning because they can push a button. I think if you approach your classroom, though, in a way in which that you're doing assignments and doing activities that can't be done with a push of a button, then you can avoid a lot of the problems you may encounter. And I know that's easier said than done, but I would like to think that that will be our approach moving forward.
A conversation that we're having currently, we're trying to really move towards a differentiated model. We're also trying to use more hands-on and more learning, kind of school-based learning. So, there is some talk about having more of a flip model where you're saying, hey, you can get the information at home, you're going to show the information that you understand it in the classroom. This is very nascent, though. This is very early stages. But you can imagine where ChatGPT is helpful in studying and learning and getting notes but if the work itself is being done in the classroom, then you know if the kid is doing it or not, and not relying on the technology. And that's, an ever changing conversation. And, look, people were talking about flipped classrooms 10, 15 years ago. And that idea again is they can get the information at home if you give them the laptop and the Wi-Fi and things like that. And what should they be doing in class is showing their learning, and then having the teacher who understands the kid, how does that teacher then differentiate in the classroom or adjust or support, etc.
I think this is kind of like the first question. Like, we've just kind of started engaging in these conversations, and we've engaged in them before when like Siri came out, right? It's like, okay, well, if you can ask Siri the question and she can answer it, perhaps we need to think about the type of question that we're asking on the test. And as information becomes more and more available, what we teach kids changes, the way we teach them. Even from when I was in high school, it was all about recalling information because you couldn't find it anywhere. Now it's about remembering where you can find the information and pull it up quickly. So just like when Siri became available and it was like, hey, if I can ask Siri the question on my math test, I should think about the depth of knowledge that I'm asking on the math test. We're having these same conversations now, but really in English primarily to start with, and it's going to change that. And then also just picking up the good pencil and paper and having that quick write in class where nothing is available. That's still available option, and we forget about it when technology, is again so prevalent. We're one-to-one, and it's just a part of what we do. We're reminding them it's okay. Shut everything down, and a 50-minute write for the period, unprompted, do it. And then you can compare that to anything that they're doing, outside the classroom and have other resources for.
Thanks for listening to our smartsocial.com podcast. I'm your host, Josh Ochs. This was our District Talk segment where we interview school district leaders to learn how they're keeping students safe on social media so those students can someday launch into their future by shining online. This episode was brought to you by our smartsocial.com VIP program. It's called the Very Informed Parent Program, which helps you engage your students with teen-led video lessons. Stay one step ahead with our premium parent newsletter and discover hidden features on trending apps on teens' phones and our 54+ live parent and student-friendly events every single year. You can click on the link below to chat with one of our team members if you want a free pass to our VIP program to support your community with our smartsocial.com resources. And if you're a district leader who has a success story, we would love to feature you on a future episode. You can click the links below to reach out. Thanks so much for listening, and we look forward to seeing you on the next episode. Have a great day.